Akinola Sennon, I really appreciate you doing this, joining the podcast today. Um, these are some of my favorite podcasts to do where, I've been, since I was in high school, been playing steel drums and started meeting folks from Trinidad when I was in high school. I met Cliff Alexis for the very first time. Um, and now that I'm 43, I really am starting to love to just talk to people who have been in this from birth and get to know them and sort of hear their story. And I'm curious, just if it's okay to start with like baby Akinola, like where are you from? What got you into doing steel pan? And then we'll sort of branch out from there. I have a lot of questions about your educational program with the Cypria Deltones, and that was sort of what prompted me to reach out to you because education's a big thing for me. But we'll get to that. But can you just start with the baby version of you? What got you into doing what you're doing?
Oh, great. Well, I mean, first, first must I extend my, you know, heartwarming feelings about being here today with you on the podcast and sharing in any way that I can. And I think, you know, once anything that I shared, would have, fostered any kind of positivity for you and the listeners now and thenceforth, the podcast would not have been in vain. So, I think from as early as age 5, my parents, Barry, Stuart, Andrew Sennon, you know, enrolled me and all my siblings to the community art school,
Mm-hmm.
um, Joseph School of the Art. Ashford Joseph, he was like this blind musician, artist, educator that had an art school in Safaria.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people came out of that school and came from under his tuition that are internationally recognized, inclusive Marshall Montano and others.
Mm.
I mean, and at this school, I would have done cultural guitar, keyboard, and it wasn't until like the age of 8 years old,
Mm-hmm.
9 years old, between 8 and 9. I started doing steel pan at my primary school, Supply Boys RC, under the tuition of Mr. Moose Joseph. Mr. Roland Moose Joseph happens to be the son of one of the founders of the Stylist Knights.
Mm-hmm.
So basically how I got into, the entire thing, my father, was a draftsman architect by profession. He was also a community activist, um, deeply into agriculture as well.
Mm. Wait, so pardon me if I interrupt. I just like as you're talking, I'm so curious to have questions. So please, I'm not trying to interrupt, but you said your dad was an architect
Yeah.
and a community activist. When I hear that, I've known a few architects, and that's an art, and I'm curious, like, um, how did that sort? Was he? What was that like being in the house with an architect? Like, what kind of stuff was he talking about in terms of like just his life, and like what was it like being in a house with an architect?
Well, I mean, architecture is design, architecture is structure, architecture is colors, architecture is composition,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
architecture is PR and marketing,
Mm.
architecture is architecture is heritage, architecture is education. I mean, so pretty much I just describe everything what music is by saying what architecture is.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing is um, an architecture or at least a piece. It's when they do it, it's basically it's constant. The line doesn't move. you know. And once they do that line, and it stays like that, till the end of time, But the only thing with music, the line, that said line takes all kind of different shapes and forms. So, I mean, my other teacher, who's my teacher, mentor, who's also an architect, two of them, Mr. Clive Zander and Mr. Carlton Zander.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Zander saying one time that architecture is like frozen music. Architecture is basically frozen music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another
Hmm. I just
thing
want to say
that,
that again. So
that
you
uh,
said architecture is frozen music.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to say that. Sorry. Go ahead.
I think one of the parallel relationships of architecture and steel band now is that, I mean, besides the architecture being an art, architecture is definitely a social science.
How so?
And yeah, architecture is a social science because this architecture is about engaging in the facet of human existence from an infrastructural and environmental standpoint, but being influenced by people and space and time and
Mm-hmm.
economics and politics.
Mm.
A line a line isn't drawn from just a artistic exploration standpoint, but a line is drawn in architecture because of so many factors that has nothing to do with art, that has to do with time and space and economics and, as the best said, politics and heritage and
Mm.
food
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
fashion. All
Yeah,
these
yeah.
things are factors that goes into the drawing of one simple line,
Mm.
for a building or for a site or for some sort of environmental development. So architecture is definitely a social science. And steel band and the role of steel band in society, from the inception was highly something social. It's
Mm.
it's something social that sees at its epicenter and foundation the art, but it's highly something social, and that's one of the great, I would say, parallel relationships with the both fields. But I mean, apart from the architect, as I say, my father was also deeply into agriculture.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agriculture. So we grew up as an agricultural family,
What in
having to
partic-
be
What in particular were you farming, or what agriculture were you a part of?
everything: poultry, uh, livestock, vegetables, fruits, everything.
Hmm. I mean, I grew up in Midwest, or sort of like northeastern Ohio, basically in the middle of a cornfield, and that area has changed drastically as I grew up. But there was a strawberry farm down the street that we would go and work at and fill things for 5 cents a quart, and I just knew farming was a big thing when I was growing up. And so I, again, just sort of, there's an odd parallel there. But like you mentioned too, that your dad was a community activist, and when I think of the steel band, when I think of architecture, like in New York right now, the politics around, yes, you're building a building, but there's, who are you displacing by building that building? And in New York, that's a real issue right now. But I'm curious, in terms of the community activism, how was your dad involved with that?
The I think the structure of many communities in Trinidad, they have these community groups, like action groups that is geared towards general community development. So they would lobby with the government to get better roads, to get playgrounds, to get general better infrastructure, and to improve on the space and improve on the lives of the inhabitants of this space.
Mm-hmm.
And in our community, which is in our village, which is a village called Queenam, which is one of the largest villages located in the community of Saparia.
Mm-hmm.
My father would have been the president of this community improvement action group for a number of years. So, growing up and, the meetings happening at our house, the fundraisers happening at our house, and my father on the phone arguing with this one, the other one, debating, lobbying.
Mm-hmm.
It was a normal thing to me. So
Mm.
even with me transferring over into Deltones, which my father was the manager of for quite a number of years as well. Um, you know, playing my role in Deltones, which has, as a facet of this community activism, it was very natural and organic, and I didn't even have to try to do it because it's natural. I
Mm.
just saw my father doing that every day.
I mean, that's a part of the part of where if I'm just sort of calling balls and strikes here. Like the thing that I'm jealous of is like I sort of became aware of politics and sort of activism later on in my life, and sort of figuring out and also just the millions of ways that activism can take shape, and how you can best affect change in a community. Um, your dad and you. I don't want to sort of say that you haven't experienced this too, but your dad was around during the time when Trinidad gained its independence from Great Britain, and where political movements like the PNM with Dr. Eric Williams, consciously making a relationship with steel bands as a way to get votes and push a political agenda, as well as hopefully support the steel band world. And again, that happened for better or worse in many respects. But I'm curious, like, did he talk much about that? And pardon my ignorance of the political landscape in Trinidad. I really only am aware of Dr. Eric Williams and the PNM and sort of some of that general history. But can you just talk a bit about that, like what that environment was like?
Um, to be quite honest, I don't think my dad thought of all of that in a deep way like that.
Mm,
I think he was just in his own simple way, predominantly trying to improve the spaces children is growing up in. I think
mm,
for him it was basically that.
mm,
So connecting it back to that deep into, I would say, the political process and movement coming from independence into the Republican state and then forth. I don't think he thought of any other stuff in a deep way,
mm,
or the science of black power and steel
mm-hmm,
band. But I must say that I myself, is a field that I spend a lot of time investigating. Through a lot of mentors that I had. I was privileged and blessed to be it. But so I am able to speak about the topic, from my perspective. But it definitely didn't come from a standpoint of from in my house to see.
mm.
You know,
Well,
the steel band definitely came at a point in time where the enslaved person people were still finding back that voice.
mm-hmm,
I mean, to be enslaved means that you lost your voice, you lost your identity, you lost your rhythm.
mm,
And in plain words, you were dehumanized.
mm-hmm,
And now that emancipation came, whether this emancipation was a myth or not, but emancipation came, a man would now have this yearning to return to self. And in returning to self, man will want to return to culture.
mm-hmm.
Man definitely will want to return to culture. So after a series of how many years of interactions and integration, that return to self will now take a new look as
Mm,
it as it looked before, in the motherland Africa.
mm-hmm.
And that return to self would also be influenced by so many other factors, geographical and otherwise. And one of these, the expressions that came about as a result of man wanting to return to self is steel pan.
Mm-hmm.
People see steel pan as, well, they was pocket up some trash can and beat up some old thing and they knock it up and then they realize notes come and they make start to make pan and nah, never. It's the man returning to himself. It's the man wanting to reclaim that genetic DNA. And even from jump to the camel. But I think that from a political standpoint, if I was to comment on that briefly, which
Mm-hmm.
you kind of pointed towards, I think the political powers that we saw the power of the steel pan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, remember Eric Williams once was the smartest human being in the whole world by, I can't remember which university it was, one of them. I mean, that information is in the public domain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was not smartest, sorry. He was one the most intelligent man on earth.
Mm-hmm.
By whatever you rubric they use, he won to the seal of other competitors. So he definitely would have been able to analyze that which is his steel pan and that which it represents and the role it was to play.
Well, can you
I'm,
can you
I'm,
go ahead? Go ahead, please.
I must say though that I kind of felt like at some point in time the implementation of the steel pan organization and its mission and vision, to some degree subdued the greatness of the thing as to where it should have gone and the direction it should have pointed towards. To me, the steel pan definitely should have been that tool or should still be that tool that has the ability to bring economic freedom to that who is the sons of enslavement that came here so much 100 years ago. I
Mm-hmm.
think the steel pan should be that tool. And I think a lot of people know that the steel pan has that ability. So creating that module that is centered and focused around certain things, even plays on the passion of the steel pan men, so that real evolution, isn't fostered at the rate that it should be.
Mm-hmm. Can I'm gonna ask? Sorry, I swear. I'm sorry. This is sort of like such a random sort of conversation already, but we'll get back to your family in a second. But like, as a kid growing up in Ohio and learning about steel drum pre-internet, there was no like the only way I could hear about soca music or Boogsy Sharp or Ellie Minette was to either physically go see them or find a random CD that someone had burned for me. And I learned about the steel band history sort of piecemeal and am learning now how much I maybe misunderstood or misinterpreted. Can you just explain to me for 2 seconds what enslaved people were all over the world and all over the Caribbean and in the United States, but why specifically Trinidad? And to me, I feel like I have an obvious answer, but I want to hear it from you. Why didn't the steel drum come out of like Morocco, or why didn't it come out of South Carolina or Barbados or St. Lucia? Not that there weren't other musical things happening there, but like what was unique to Trinidad? What was happening in Trinidad at the time that really made the steel band an inevitable sort of result?
Well, I think firstly I must say that, and this may be irrational to some, but firstly I must say it's destiny. is the will of the creator in his beyond capacity, of the master planner of all events that take place below the sun. But with that being said, I think these factors were there to allow for a steel pan to be built in Trinidad in his infinite wisdom. One, the drum itself being an orator of the story of the enslaved that came here.
Mm-hmm.
Two, the enslaved had high levels of knowledge regarding mending steel. Three,
Mm-hmm.
there was steel available in a waste capacity in Trinidad with the U.S. Navy being here and all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Four, I think some of the more prosperous plantations of the region, somewhat came out of Trinidad. Trinidad
Mm-hmm.
definitely would have been ahead of the region somewhat, from an economic standpoint because of the plantations were here. So to me, there's a lot of historic, political, artistic, cultural, geographical, economical factors. Then when all amalgamated, creates a very good reasoning
Mm.
that the steel pan would have debuted. I mean, I'm sure there are many other angles to think of, but that's one that came to mind for
No,
me.
I mean, this is that was the. I mean, there's first of all, I mean, I wanted the answer from your mouth. I mean, everybody's going to have a different angle to look at this stuff, and what you're saying is overlapping with what I'm learning more and more as I sort of dig into this and sort of reassess what it is I learned. That there were a million factors from, like you said, the U.S. Navy, the slave trade in the Caribbean, Christopher Columbus, Sir Walter Raleigh, like all of the, everything had some way of contributing to this. And when I talk to my students at Princeton, they have to write a paper about like how they see why the steel band in Trinidad. Again, why didn't it come up and why wasn't it invented in London? And taking in all of the cultural contexts that were World War II, Hitler, like all of this stuff had something to do with why we're playing steel band at Princeton or why the Siparia Deltones now have an educational program. And you're part of that lineage now. And to me, I think the sort of messy answer is the best answer. It's like, yeah, you can't just say Ellie Minette found an oil drum one day. Like that's not true. I mean, that's part of the thing, but there's 4,000 other things that contributed to Ellie Minette or Winston Spree Simon or any of these folks that helped to develop this instrument that we are now that's sitting behind me. And so anyway, I really appreciated that answer, and I want to take it back to your family. What did your mom do?
My mom basically raised us,
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't work like that. She basically was a housewife, and that's basically a simple woman, instilling good morals and attributing to her children and managing a home, and with four diverse children as we were, and I think her job was even a way more difficult than my dad's.
I think every woman who's listening, every mother who's listening to this podcast right now is like, say it again for the people in the back. Like.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man, for sure. For sure. And that's been a real support. I mean, up till now, my biggest support, the Delta is considered is definitely my mother
Mm.
and my father and my entire family.
Yeah.
But I want to talk. I'm speaking about my mother.
Is she a musician? Did she grow up playing music?
Nah, no music. Nah, she didn't
What
really
was
go
her
play music like that.
what was her main interest? Like
Um,
when you guys weren't around and she sort of had just like time to herself. What was the thing she did when no one was around?
um, I don't think she had time like that. I don't think she
Hmm.
had no one around time, and she just to herself. I mean, because you remember my house. I mean, if the church is not around, there's some level of community activity happening at the house.
Hmm.
Or my father, he had this like a young architect community institute at our home. Where almost sometimes take some guys off the streets and in a year or two time, they were designing homes for people throughout the region and that kind of thing. So, the house was so diverse and full of activity. I don't think there were much time where, she had like this entire, free space to
Hmm.
explore whatever. I think, she was just totally vested into development of a family.
Well, and I also don't want to be presumptuous. Maybe that was the thing that she did when no one was looking. Like that was her passion, you know. So I don't want to assume that that's not something that somebody would be like, no, that's what I loved raising kids. I loved being a part of a
Yeah,
house that had all of this
yeah,
activity, you know.
yeah.
Um, when I think the first time I came across you, and again, so everybody's listening, knows you and I have never met personally. This is the first time we've ever spoken. But where I met you was online, and I saw a video came across my feed because I've followed Ellie Manette, since I was in high school, and it was a video of Ellie sitting behind you and you playing, I think, double seconds, either double seconds or double tenors, and you were just shredding, like absolutely shredding, like in the first way. Like I remember seeing Boogsy Sharp play for the first time, and I was just like, "What in the hell?" Like I did not know somebody could do that on that instrument. And Ellie sort of had a similar look on his face of like, what what am I seeing and hearing right now? Um, who were some of your, like, maybe can you tell me a little bit about that video? Like what got you in the room with Ellie, and sort of who have been, I mean, maybe I'm presuming something here, but clearly he's an influence. But like, who were your biggest steel pan musicians that you were looking up to as a kid growing up and trying to, maybe emulate is the wrong word, but sort of figure out the secret to their sauce, like how they were doing what they were doing? Who were those folks for you growing up?
Definitely Jason Batiste,
Hmm.
Earl Rodney.
Oh my God, I love Earl Rodney. Oh, he's such a sweet player. Goodness.
Yeah, I was at his home just last week.
How's he doing?
Started to be, yeah, he's good.
Good,
He's
good, good.
good. Full of energy and full of life. Um, Boogie, for sure.
Hmm.
I started some Boogie Shop videos, and because we had very limited TV time in my father's house. My father, he didn't like the thing of his children sitting watching television all day.
Hmm.
So, our TV time was very much scheduled. And I would always take my TV time looking at Boogie Shop videos and some video cassettes that I had of them as a child. I'm talking 15 and below.
Hmm.
Every single day I looked at Boogie, cassettes. But then obviously my main mentor would have been Mr. Carlton Zander.
Hmm.
Do not a pan player by 40. Don't play pan before that. I would have listened to him play a lot as a piano player.
Mm-hmm.
I think my style of playing very much so speaks to the technical process of a piano player playing, where he, of course, improvises on the right hand, but uses I would say, left hand to bring definition to his grammar,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to see that his verbs and adjectives and nouns and pronouns and his punctuation marks become more defined, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I employ that kind of concept of playing from playing with Carlton Zander a lot, and of course playing a lot with his brother as well, Clive Zander, and his soul rest in peace. Definitely, um, other steel pan influences. Definitely Clive Bradley.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely Clive Bradley. But to be quite honest, I grew up listening way more musicians that were not steel pan players. So to be real honest about that.
No, please. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so like I listen to a lot of John Coltrane, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of Woody Hancock,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of um, Atitum, Miles Davis, um, Oscar Peterson,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, I mean, so many others. I mean, when I say listen to them, not a by the way listen, like I would have, oh, well, I must say, growing up as well, I think when I was about 13 or 14, my mother also migrated to the States. She eventually settled in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's back home now, probably for the past 6 or 7 years. So growing up in the States, many holidays we have been in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And Berkeley College was my playground.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have an interest to go to the mall, to the movies, to the nothing. I just wanted to be in Berkeley every day. And then summertime, so have all these programs going on. I've never officially enrolled into any program there, like at Berkeley, but I was just in the environment a lot. Going by the steel pan faculty, meeting the guys there, and just so you know how it is there. I'm sure I've been there a lot. Just going through the compound and that kind of thing.
Well,
So
I want
being
to. I
at
mean,
Berkeley,
no. Go
hmm?
ahead. Go ahead, please. Sorry.
That's what's going to say. Being at Berkeley was also a real influence to me. And
Mm-hmm.
I would go to the bookstores and buy so many biography type books of
Mm-hmm.
all these people that I was listening
Mm.
to hear their story, to read up their process, and that kind of thing as well.
I want to just put a highlight something you just said as a like you weren't enrolled at the college at Berkeley College of Music, but you were in the environment and you basically treated yourself as a student at Berkeley. Whether or not Berkeley had you on the rolls didn't matter. Like to me, that's the thing I feel like the most interesting people I know in my life. This video artist and electronic musician named Martin Schmidt, and he plays with a duo called Matmos, and they're based in Baltimore. They're from San Francisco initially. Martin would just sleep in his car and just show up to classes as if he was a student and just take video classes. And nobody said anything to him. They didn't know. Like he would just show up, raise his hand, ask questions, and then leave. And he slept in his car. And I just think like he may have gotten the best education from there, better education than almost anybody else who paid to go there and was like, yes, I'm in a dorm now, like all of those things, because he was there for the reason that educational institutions are built, which are to be a like fermenting ground for all of this different knowledge, and you can, anyway, I really appreciated the way you sort of think about that time at Berkeley. Like, I wish every student approached their time at NYU or Princeton in the exact same way. As you're talking about influences, I want to sort of steer us a little bit towards the, and I apologize for saying the name of your town wrong, Siparia Deltones. My first experience with a steel band in Trinidad was driving in a taxi, going past Invader's yard on my way to Phase 2's yard as I was 22 years old, and I just heard this like this wall of sound come out from an alley, and then we drove by and it went away, and I was like, what was that? And then we turn the corner and we go down, Damien Street, and we turn on to go to Phase 2's yard. We go to Phase 2's yard, and I walk in, and my whole world was flipped upside down. And I'm curious for you, like, being a part of the Siparia Deltones now, and when was that moment for you, or did you have that moment, or was it a slow build, and now that, like, it was just all obvious to you the whole time? Like, I had been playing steel drums since I was in high school, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't actually been playing steel pan. Like, this, I'm home now,
I think that moment for me happened around the age 9.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point in time, there was still a lot of stigma surrounding the steel band and steel band men,
Mm-hmm.
as a possible, I would say, location to foster gang activity and gang type ideologies on the whole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So many parents, sorry, did not allow for their children to freely go to the barnyard like that.
And can you just say out loud, like, say the obvious thing? Why? Why was that a thing?
I mean, yes, for that reason I just said that. Okay, like from a statistical data standpoint, there'll be a lot of people in the band with running with the law and
Mm-hmm.
unknown unknown to the police for whatever activity or not. Um, for the high use of marijuana and the compound, which back then marijuana I think was a way more serious thing to the law enforcement agencies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a couple other things that can be deemed social ills, so so a lot of parents didn't allow that free flow of their children going to the barnyard. I mean, presently now that has really changed 100%.
Mm-hmm.
That probably don't exist at all again. But I remember my father taking me to the barnyard one night. There was some panorama practice was going on at the Jones. I was about age 9. And that feeling like I didn't want to change the clothes that I went there in. And I wish I could have not changed that clothes,
Mm-hmm.
like I wish I didn't have to go and sleep. Like I fear that the effect of that moment could go away by doing something like having a bath or changing my clothes or sleeping and because of Sunday, and I remember going to school the other day and boasting to all my friends that hey, I was by Delto's Spaniard last night. I was by Delto's Spaniard. I actually walked on the ground of Delto's Spaniard
Mm-hmm.
and look at the players play them and hear them speaking. And I was inhaling the same air that they was inhaling for a couple of minutes. Seriously, it was like that much of a moment. And it never died. Till the day that I was actually invited to play Deltones at the age of 13. It was like a gift.
Everything, the way you talk about it, is sort of giving me goosebumps a little bit because I have been trying to find the words to say what the last 3 years we've been in COVID, and there's been a lot of talk of staying away from people and don't hug and don't do all of this stuff. And I think the thing that I felt like realize now that I missed the most was the sort of sacred space. You can call it a church, you can call it a community center, you can call it a refuge, you can call it a sanctuary, of the pan yard. There's no other place in my life personally. I've played at Carnegie Hall. I've played at Lincoln Center. Like, I've been very fortunate. I've never felt as safe as when I'm in Crossfire Steel Pan Yard in Brooklyn. I lost your video there.
Sorry,
That's all good.
I was just trying to tell a student in Texas that I'll be late for class.
Oh, sorry. I'll let you. What time do you need to leave?
No, it's fine. He's fine.
Okay. The sacred ground. I've just never felt as safe as I felt in Cassim's yard or in Skiffle's yard or in Phase Two's yard or in the Pan Yard at NYU. Like, and there's something unique about that I think, just to tie it back to what you said earlier about finding your voice. What happens when you free an enslaved people? What are the repercussions of 400 years of slavery? And what are the repercussions? What are the consequences of a community demanding its voice back? And this space that initially was a place where parents didn't want your kids to go because you might get in trouble with the law or be exposed to drugs or prostitution or whatever. Now, that place is a church. And it just makes me yearn to know where this is going in 400 years from now. Anyway, there's no question there. That was just a reaction to what you were saying. I'm sorry, I lost your
All right, I
audio
lost
there.
you probably for the last 30 seconds.
Oh, sorry, there you go. I was just saying, like, the feeling that the Pan Yard is a sacred space is something that has taken years and years and years and generations of struggle and blood and government oppression and all this stuff. And it just makes me, everything you're saying makes me yearn to know, man, I wish I could be around 400 years from now to know where this went. Anyway, again, I don't have a question. It was just a reaction to what you were saying.
I understand. I mean, definitely, the Panyard as an institution is one of the most unique institutions in the entire world. Which it actually bugs me when institutions do pan programs in position to the pan itself. And most institutions, from my observation, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, most of the institutions internationally that have pan programs, they merely adapt, I would say, a European curriculum structure, European instrument that is replaced the pan.
Oops, sorry, Akinola, I think we're breaking up a little bit. Would you
And I'm
mind?
saying steel pan, right, hear me?
There,
Hello?
yeah, there you are. There you were saying that the international institutions tend to sort of take a European approach to the structure of the band, and I lost you.
Yeah, the structure of the steel pan education programs, at the various institutions. And I'm saying that the pan in itself has its own indigenous curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
and its structure and its governance, it's generally like no other. And for the thing to evolve, for the thing to go into that next phase of its dimension and its existence, there must be a merging between heritage and modernity,
Mm.
employing modernity to have that constant relevance to current society. But the heritage of the thing is that which gives it root, that which gives it gravity,
Mm.
and is finding that equilibrium point for the both. And that equilibrium point is now that meeting point, that center point, as it meets at the center, that point of balance is now. And that is what our, I would say, ideological platform sits upon at Deltas. Um, it's a constant merging of the heritage and modernity. But why the heritage? So that your curriculum structure, your process will be birthed out of the thing itself.
Mm.
And you cannot birth it out of something else. And too often we do that.
Yeah.
Birth it out of something else. And we just end up using the pan as a mere tool. No, the thing must be birthed out of pan itself. What is pan? Pan is heritage. What is pan? Pan is fashion. What is pan? Pan is art and craft. What is pan? Pan is agriculture. What is pan? Pan is innovation. What is pan? Pan is entrepreneurship. What is pan? Pan is science of music. What is pan? Pan is... So if these are not the components that we built in our educational program from, we just built it out as something else and just using the pan as a mere tool.
I totally agree, and you've mentioned the word evolution several times, and in my I love science, I love evolutionary biology, and just sort of learning how we got to where we got to, and there's a lot of people who have no problem commenting on things and saying things and having opinions. Where there's a shortage is people who are actually willing to take the next step and act on something and try something new. And that's the newness is where, like you said, modernity meeting heritage, taking a risk, trying something out, experimenting. And that's why I reached out to you. Yes, you're a great player. You have a great vibe online, but your specific willingness with the Siparia Deltones in your educational program with the youth was something to me that was like, okay, this guy is not willing to just sit on his hands and have opinions. You're trying things out. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about your sort of educational approach to the Siparia Deltones youth program, and in specific, like, why, again, why you? Why not sit back and comment on somebody else's educational programs? What specifically can only Akinola Sennon do with this program, and why are you doing it?
I mean, I don't think there's nothing specifically that I can do alone in isolation. I think that anything that I do, anybody can do it if they so desire to. So for me, I mean, there's nothing special about me in that regard at all. I mean, if anything special is an awareness that I would have gained, via my experiences that I had in this physical existence thus far. Probably that may be something that set me aside. But
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think of myself as I don't know, like a god gift to the world or anything like that.
No, I didn't want
Just
to. Sorry, I didn't want to imply that puts you on a weird pedestal. But it's like you look at Ellie Minette. Like, he could have sat back and waited to see what everybody else was doing, and then just said, "That's not going to work. That's not going to work," and then not actually taken the next step to build the Barracuda pan, or whatever it was in his life that let like. There are levels to the game, and like there are many people who talk about education, but you are actually someone who's decided to wake up today, and out of respect for your time and your students, I don't want to keep you from your students given all the how important I feel like this is, but like you're actually you're not doing something else. You're doing this. And to me, that's something I just want to I want to push back a little bit. That is special. That's unique right now. And I want to sort of like pick your brain so that folks understand how easy it is to actually just take that step, but also how scary it can be. And I'm curious for you, like, where do you see this Siparia Deltones program? Like, what do you want to see out of it in the long run? 400 years from now, what are you hoping comes out?
What I hope it comes out is that the Separia Deltones module becomes the normal module that everybody else does. That everybody else is working towards self-sufficiency. That everyone else has a curriculum that was booted out of the pants fully exploits and
Mm,
fully, I would say, capitalize on our beloved instrument. That everyone else allows Separia Deltones to be an institute of mentorship and not even take the entire module, but take pages out of it at least and make it applicable to your own space and time. I mean, look just for example, coming out of our agri program, because I mean, I definitely will need to come back to you sometime and talk to you about some of this in a lot more detail. But coming
mm,
out of our agri program was birthed an NGO called YFAM. YFAM today is an internationally celebrated agricultural NGO dealing with um, youth awareness in agriculture globally. I mean, I cannot think of a place in the world that YFAM has not conducted some level of our thing. And as I say, it's celebrated in many spaces internationally. Coming out of our upcycling program was also an upcycling company called Palace Billet. You know, where, they used to make a stuff furniture, crafts, and all the different things that they make. And today, these things already being shipped across the region. And very soon, coming out of our tourism and heritage venture, we were awarded the best tourism village of the entire Caribbean last week.
mm. Well, congratulations.
So, um, thank you. On April the 4th, we are about to release an album with international legend and superstar Hugh Masekela and Marshall Man. So, we have already gone past the phase of we are trying to different work. I mean, we have the data to show that it has been working. I mean, is it any close to where we want it to be? To the ID module, not even 40. But by the grace of God, through the passage of time, all my students and some well wishers and parents on the way to a Repo waterfall right now. I wasn't able to join them just yet because I have the podcast to do with you, which I felt was very important, and I could not tell you for another week that I can do it. And then I have two other classes to do, and then I have to complete a report for a very very important deadline that we have tomorrow. And then after I can go and engage in with the rest of students at this after panorama cool down is so to deal it. So it's
Well,
constantly evolving daily, constantly being about it, constantly, being critical to self and being critical to space and allowing that criticism to foster development.
well, I'm now having a massive wave of Catholic guilt for keeping you from your students right now. So I want to wrap this up on their behalf. And just Akinola, I'm very grateful for you for taking this time, and I will just simply. Sorry, I wasn't ignoring you either. I was writing down stuff because I you know I learned a ton today. So just simply put, thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your educational mission. I hope the next time I'm in Trinidad, we can get together and I can buy you some roti and an apple J, and we can sit and talk more in person. But please, please, please give my love to Siparia Deltones, and
I
I
don't
hope
think
to
so.
see you. Okay, well then a cran water or a water, whatever it is, whatever it is that suits your fancy. Your time here is super valuable to me, and I'm very grateful for it. And my students will benefit from hearing from you. And I hope that it changes. It just bumps a few people in a different direction hearing this podcast. Just to wrap up, where is there some place online if folks wanted to learn more specifically about what it is you're doing in your educational mission in the Siparia Deltones and their history? Where could they go? Where could they go first?
There's Delton Saparia Facebook. There's Kusume the Movement Facebook. There's YFAM Facebook. Let's Build It Facebook. Um, all the things that I've just mentioned as well is also available on Instagram.
Okay.
In the process of amalgamating everything into our website, really didn't want the website to be just like any other website. So, we have been building it for quite some time, and very soon that will be released. I want to say as well, we have a global cultural exchange project that we do, and I definitely would like to do that project sometime at your school and your institution. Just listening to some of your views this morning, I think it will definitely be a great fit. You know, um, um, I think one of my students at Skipper Bunch, Christian.
Oh yeah. He plays seconds.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. He was. I worked with. I first met him in 2020 when we did Wrong Again, and I was like, "Who is this young kid just out here shredding it, like playing circles around everybody?" And then I saw him again this past year whenever we were down there for playing Burn Dem, and I was like, and he had facial hair, and I was like, "Wait a minute, you're an adult now. What's happening?"
And then I don't know if you know them. Then there's Adesha Luke. She plays bass.
Uh-huh.
There's Sasha Paul Chinese. She plays bass.
Yeah.
I have a couple of students. I have a couple of students as well that plays with Skipper Bunch.
Oh my God, Sasha. Yeah. Oh my God. Anyway, listen. What I love about conversations with people that I don't know is it turns out I know them. It turns out we actually do know each other just through other people. And man, I really appreciate your time. I will let you go. Please stay safe and stay healthy. And let's definitely offline. Let's scheme about bringing you up to Princeton and NYU at some point. I had Olatunji Yearwood come in the fall, and he absolutely blew the students' minds singing some Calypso stuff and talking about the history of Calypso music. And so I definitely want to make that happen. So let's keep scheming about that. But in the meantime, thank you so much. Stay healthy and stay safe, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you, my brother.
All right, take it easy. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that conversation. This podcast is brought to you by Liquid Drum, liquiddrum.com down in Waco, Texas. My good friend Todd Meehan runs an amazing percussion company down there. Great merch, great content. Check him out, liquiddrum.com. Also, Kyle Dunleavy, dunleavypans.com, DUNLEAVY pans.com. Kyle Dunleavy makes and builds all the steel drums that I perform and teach on, in So Percussion, as well as at NYU and Princeton. He's an amazing tuner builder, just a really nice guy, very dependable. Check him out. If you are interested at all in steel pan advocacy, want to learn more about the goings-on in pan in Brooklyn, check out paninmotion.com. My good friend Kendall Williams, Jerry Guy, Trisha Guy, and Arisha John run an amazing organization called paninmotion.com. Check them out. And finally, Alejandre Mirage runs an amazing clothing apparel company in Brooklyn that is steel pan centric. You can check him out at mangochow, CHOW, clothing.com. I own a bunch of his shirts. They're amazing, very stylish, beautifully made. Check them out. mangochowclothing.com. Okay, hope you're well. Talk to you soon. Bye.